We're taking a peek into geek culture and sharing our top 10 fandom favorites. Let Your Geek Sideshow presents Geek Culture Countdown. Hey guys, this is Kitty.
This is Andrew.
And we are coming to you from the Sideshow Studios in Southern California. Welcome back to the Geek Culture Countdown. This week we have doubled down on seeking out the top 10 clones in comics. These dynamic duplicates hold a mirror up to the nature of some of our favorite heroes and villains, showcasing both the best and worst that comic book science has to offer. Some of these clones offer improvements and upgrades over their prime counterparts, but others, well, you've heard of evil twins, right? Listen along to find out which characters passed the DNA test to make it onto our countdown. Let's get started. All right, so let's just get ready to tackle this. We're talking clones.
We're talking clones.
And I kind of, when I think clones, I conflate them with evil twins, but there have been some very good clones, newer models, upgrades, DNA tweaking to bring out the best in some superheroes, and sometimes it just kind of fails.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it, I suppose.
Yeah, and a lot of these, I think the way it ended up, we ended up with a lot of scientific clones. There are some magical duplicates. There's multiple man who can make multiples of himself, but that's not necessarily a clone. We're kind of going for the more traditional definition of extracting DNA and making a second version of the creature.
Which is an interesting one because a lot of the time it ends up with like a tortured personality. But I'm going to hold back. I'm going to hold back and dive in to number 10.
All right, go for it.
So number 10 is Nathaniel Essex, born in 1859. He worked alongside the well-known genetic theorist Charles Darwin. Darwin loved to study genetics, and Essex immediately wanted to toy with them and toy with his own. He altered his own genetics dramatically in order to acquire superhuman strength and intelligence at first. But then he used his newfound superintelligence to get himself the ability to change his body in any way that he wanted to. Shapeshifting, regeneration. He even does teleportation, but there are some theories as to whether or not that's genetic or not. He has spent over 100 years developing his ability and ensuring his abilities and ensuring his own survival. And most recently, in Jonathan Hickman's Hoxpox, it was revealed that there are many clones of Mr. Sinister, not just the one that he's like passing on the torch to, because he does clone himself to live longer in a sense. You know, he really does pass the torch. Each one is powerful in a different way. Each one has an extended life and with a backup ready at any time. He's a collector of genes and has every gene of every mutant and most humans alive, and in many cases dead.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he's super cool. And
when he was tweaking his DNA, did he also give himself that, like, I hesitate to say ridiculous, but the garish fashion sense that he displays?
I think that evolved along with him. Yeah, I think so.
Nathaniel Essex. That's a very Mr. Sinister name.
Oh, it really is. It's creepy, and everything about him is kind of creepy and at the same time gaudy. You know, like I don't know how else to describe that. It's just very over the top, and that's exactly how he treats his own genetics when he clones himself.
Alrighty. Number 9 on our list is a Marvel character who's actually considered by some fans to be even cooler than the original. Number 9 on our list is Strife, and he is a clone of Nathan Summers, also known as Cable in the Marvel Universe. After the mutant villain Apocalypse infected the young Nathan Summers with a techno-organic virus, the Ascani cult, who believed that he is their savior in a way, they offered to help stop the virus in the child, but in doing so, they took him to the future and they cloned a little baby off the side just in case the one that they were working on died. They were able to stop the technovirus somewhat, and the clone never had the technovirus to begin with. But Apocalypse, seeking to destroy Cable, came and ransacked the cult's headquarters and adopted the Nathan Summers clone, who he named Strife in order to encourage his cruelty as Apocalypse raised him as his own. As Cable's clone, Strife has immensely powerful psionic abilities, including telepathy and telekinesis, and since he does not have the techno-organic virus, he doesn't have to expend power like Cable does to keep it at bay from spreading to the rest of him where it is. So Cable's basically playing with one arm tied behind his back, and Strife is able to use both hands. He is also a master tactician and expert with firearms and is superhumanly strong and durable like his counterpart. And I find it very interesting. I mean, because a lot of people do love Cable because it's Cable.
Because it's Cable.
And he's like 90s to the max. But a lot of people say that Strife is more interesting. It is pretty cool to have the cloned savior of a cult ended up kidnapped and raised by the person who is seeking to destroy that cult.
I'm going to pop you with another interesting one.
All right.
Honey badger.
I love honey badger so much.
Is it? So I don't actually know this because I've only ever read it and not listened. Is it Gabrielle or Gabrielle?
I think it's Gabrielle.
Okay, all right. I don't know.
Gabby. I call her Gabby usually.
That makes more sense. I've asked a stupid question. Gabrielle Kinney was meant to be a perfect clone of Wolverine and used to be a killing weapon. She was abused by the very people who created her, but given tiny robo-nanites in her bloodstream that made her incapable of feeling pain. She has a single claw on each hand right in the middle. Wolverine would be very proud that every time she uses her power, she's flipping someone off. She has a regenerative healing power on top of the no pain thing, and animal senses just like Wolverine. What she doesn't copy from Wolverine is her extraordinarily positive and loving attitude. She is always over the top happy, which is adorable. She's passionate about animals and even has a pet Wolverine named Jonathan. She once went on a mission with Deadpool to free animals from a lab, just like she needed to be freed. And while she's a bit more lighthearted, both her and Wolverine are quite free-spirited.
And now Wolverine in this context includes the DNA of Logan, but the all-new Wolverine at the time was X-23, who, I'm going to spoil this list. Anyone who's hanging in here hoping that X-23 is going to be on our list, you can turn off the podcast now. X-23 has recently been revealed to not be a clone of Logan, as was previously thought. And actually, they discovered that thanks to Mr. Sinister and his DNA cache of all the mutants that is his creepy little catalog. Because Jessica Jones and Luke Cage were trying to figure out who the heck was selling their daughter's DNA, and uncovered the fact that Laura Kinney is the biological daughter of Sarah Kinney and Wolverine. And so we've got some fun Wolverine clone jumping around here because it was pretty essential for them to still keep in a clone, and that's where we have Honey Badger.
Yeah. Well, clones know clones. That's how he was able to discern.
Yes. She's honestly one of the best additions to Marvel Comics, I think, in the last 5 years.
I think so. She's so wonderful.
She's fabulous. Now, number 7, if you didn't tune out because you were waiting for X-23, I'm going to give you a warning. This does have spoilers for a certain television series on Amazon called The Boys, because this is a spoiler taken from the comics, which has been out for a while. So I'll give you 3, 2, 1 to get out of here. Number 7 on our list is Black Noir.
Damn it, I'm still here.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you had your chance to leave. Number 7 on our list is Black Noir from The Boys by Wildstorm and then Dynamite Comics. He is the mysterious and mostly silent member of the Seven, who is often depicted in shadow or in silhouette. While he remains an enigma for most of the comic book series, it is eventually revealed in the climax of the series that he is the sadistic, yes, even more so, clone of the Homelander, created by the Vought American Corporation as a failsafe in case they needed to assassinate the Homelander. Black Noir, once set free, reveals himself as a deranged, kind of very scary figure who babbles incoherently, and his own insanity limits his motor functions, mostly when his mask is removed. He's pretty calm and collected up until the point where they expose him as the Homelander's clone. His strength is greater than the Homelander's, which is why he is the contingency plan to kill off the leader of the Seven. And he is responsible for a number of heinous crimes throughout the series that I will not go into detail about, but yes, they are bad, and he is a very, very bad person.
Well, thank you for not spoiling everything.
Yeah. I had to leave some mystery to Black Noir. Sorry to anyone who is checking out the Amazon series, but it is available. That spoiler is readily available in the comics. So if you jumped, you were like, I got to read the comics after seeing this series, you may or may not have encountered this spoiler already. I think I also have number 7 on the list.
You do, please.
Number 7 is one of my favorite sets of clones, the Stepford Cuckoos. Marvel's Stepford Cuckoos, who I think I'd love someone to go back and check. I think I've brought them up in at least 4 podcasts over the last year. They have been known by many names. They've been known as the 5-in-1, Weapon 14, the 3-in-1, and Emma's Girls. The first 5 Cuckoos are only a handful out of thousands of Emma Frost clones created by Dr. John Sublime, and they were harvested from Frost without her knowledge while she was comatose for the Weapon Plus program. The 5 were sent to infiltrate Xavier's school as students, and these 5 were Sophie, Phoebe, Mindy, Celeste, and Esme. Sophie and Esme died killed by Quentin Quire and Zorn, respectively, and the remaining 3 consider themselves the 3-in-1. The girls have a general distrust for their mother, and they are psychically gifted with the same telepathic abilities as Emma Frost. They also have a hive mind mentality. They are the only 3 who are actually awake. There are those other thousands, though, and I wouldn't be surprised if some Marvel writer decides to pull them out of storage at some point. And most interestingly, while they have most of the same powers as their mother, their secondary diamond forms are flawless. And I'm not just talking about how good they look. Emma Frost possesses one molecular weakness that can be exploited, and like she can be shattered. But the Stepford Cuckoos, which is the not so kind nickname given to them by the other students of Xavier's, they didn't choose that name. They don't have that fatal flaw in their diamond form, and they also once hosted Essence of the Phoenix Force as a group together.
So they're flawless.
They are. Hashtag flawless.
Yeah, they're hashtag flawless. Number 5, not so much. Let's do number 5.
Sure.
Bizarro, who is a clone of Superman.
Hate Bizarro.
Oh my goodness. Bizarro is a clone of Superman, but not a very good one. In fact, he's kind of the opposite of Superman. And while he does have superhuman strength and speed and invulnerability and flight like his Kryptonian counterpart, nearly everything else is backwards. He has... this is a list here. Okay. Arctic vision, flame breath. He doesn't need solar radiation for his powers. He's self-sustaining. He has vacuum breath instead of wind breath. He has Bizarro X-ray vision, which means he can see only through lead. He can't see through anything else. But his Bizarro X-ray vision also lets him shoot X-rays out of his eyes, which is... a thing. His weakness is even the opposite. It's blue kryptonite instead of green. Even the way that he speaks, bad means good, up is down, and you get the point. Bizarro's influence has rippled throughout the multiverse, though. It's not just Bizarro himself. There is a planet called, and I'm going to butcher this, and I'm sorry to all the Bizarro speakers out there, Trey, which is just Earth backwards. The planet lives by the Bizarro code, which is the following. Us do opposite of all earthly things. Us hate beauty. Us love ugliness. Is big crime to make anything perfect on Bizarro world. Which is why the planet is square, by the way. Their planet is square.
That's my Green Lantern oath right there.
So... what he does clone properly of Superman, though, is how very passionate that he is. He really cares about the Bizarro people, but he will tell you that he hates them. So
Aww. Aww. Well, I'm going to take a quick detour, and we're going to go to, speaking of planets of clones and bizarreness, our honorable mention goes to the clones of Star Wars, because there are a number of Dark Horse and Marvel publications that include the clone troopers. They are among some of the most famous fictional clones, and we would be remiss. I mean, we're not going through all of fiction here, but they do happen to appear in comics. They had a whole war named after them. So
yeah, at least one.
At least one. And the clones were created from the Mandalorian bounty hunter Jango Fett, and they were created by the Kaminoans and deployed in various troops across the galaxy. The Jedi had clone troops, and the Separatists, and Empire got in on that, and so everybody had their own clones in Star Wars. But
at some point.
Yeah, this is just a quick mention to say that we haven't forgotten about the clones as they exist in Dark Horse and Marvel Comics. But number 4 on our list is someone who actually was not intended to be a clone on their first appearance.
Oh, that's right.
Number 4 is Madeline Pryor. She was originally, and I actually love the purpose she was originally written for. She was supposed to be an object of deception for Scott Summers, and he was supposed to believe that this was he actually was supposed to believe that she was the Phoenix incarnate and had done away with Jean Grey. But Scott inadvertently fell in love with her. But it was retconned in the Inferno event, written by Claremont, co-scripted by Claremont and Louise Simonson, that she was in fact a Jean Grey clone created by Mr. Sinister. Originally, Claremont had hoped that he could write it so that Madeline and Scott Summers would settle down, have a child, and he could retire Cyclops from the X-Men because he didn't want to work on Cyclops anymore. Didn't quite work out that way. It was revealed that she was created by Mr. Sinister because we know from number 10 how much he loves to mess with DNA, and he wanted her and Scott Summers to spawn a powerful mutant child. And you know what they did? That child ended up being Cable. But the revelation of her true origin, as well as the loss of Cable and then being abandoned by Scott for the real Jean, thanks Scott, led Madeline to become a corrupted supervillain named the Goblin Queen. She possesses Jean Grey's abilities of telepathy.
There you go.
Telepathy. Telepathy and telekinesis, and she can teleport and utilize demonic eldritch magic in her Goblin Queen form. I kind of sympathize with her. Like, she had not only on the meta writing side a tortured history.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Claremont was like, I wanted to retire Scott Summers, so I gave him a new girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, super producer Sam, run that by me one more time. He's written on the back of a note card, Jean, which that basically sums that up. But yeah, I sympathize with her in a little bit, just like to find out that she was created by a crazy geneticist to serve a purpose, and then she had her child, and then the child was supposed to be the savior. The child had a clone made of himself, and it's just you feel a little bit bad for Madeline Pryor.
Yeah,
she's got a lot going on there.
No, absolutely, it's a whole lot. I also have a Goblin Queen form. It's in the mornings, but I'll tell you about number 3, because number 3 is another clone that went differently than the Bizarro clone, but he is meant to be a clone of Superman.
All right.
Superboy was made by Project Cadmus by mixing Kryptonian DNA from Superman with the DNA of a human. He was originally called Project 13 before he was freed, and he was certainly bad luck for Cadmus because when he was freed, he kind of destroyed their entire establishment and let all their other experiments go, but that's a different story for another time. Eventually, he took on the name Connor Kent and acted as a younger cousin to Clark Kent. Because Superboy has Kryptonian physiology, he has similar powers as Superman, but he also seems to have telekinetic abilities because in one comic run, it was believed that his true power was actually tactile telekinesis, which is... it basically allowed him to imitate Superman's powers, but he didn't in that comic, he didn't actually have those, but the telekinesis carried over. There's a lot there. Mm-hmm. He's been around for quite some time. Comic book science.
They should write a textbook. It's all straightforward.
He's a really passionate hero, but he definitely didn't have the same loving childhood that Superman had. You know, he didn't get to grow up on a farm or anything. He grew up in a big tube in a vat of experimentation. Aww. And so he's a little bit more distrusting, but you still feel the passion.
Yeah, I mean, whenever someone says Superboy, I immediately go to the image of him with the jean jacket, kind of looking over his shoulder,
exactly,
with the cool glasses and the teenage rebellion haircut.
He's like a bad boy Superman.
Yeah.
You know, clones.
Yeah, clones. And speaking of clones who go well, don't go well, number 2 on our list is a clone who I wouldn't say he's more popular than his original counterpart like Strife and Cable, but he is a clone who has taken on a whole new life of his own in popularity. Number 2 on our list is Ben Reilly, one of the numerous Scarlet Spiders, but specifically Ben Reilly. He is the first successful clone of Peter Parker, but he is not the first clone of Peter Parker. That dubious honor goes to Kane Parker, who was incorrectly created and had degenerative issues and eventually kind of went a little crazy. Ben Reilly, though, was a successful clone created by the Jackal, He was intended to be a one-off character because he seemingly died in his first appearance in Marvel Comics, but he was resurrected and reemerged, or not resurrected, he survived that initial attempt, but it wasn't discovered until later when he reemerged as the Scarlet Spider in 1994 during the Clone Saga storyline. Riley was created by the Jackal, an enemy of Peter Parker, who was also responsible for cloning Gwen Stacy because he had a weird infatuation with her, and he also created Kane Parker. It was revealed that Riley survived his supposed death, and the funny part is he and Peter Parker squared off, and there was a battle, and then the Jackal and Peter... he thought that Riley had died, and so he needed to dispose of the body because he goes, this is going to get real weird if someone finds a Peter Parker body. And so he dumped him in a smokestack, and then, of course, it was revealed that Riley was clinging to the inside of the smokestack, crawled his way out, and lived his own life. He did have numerous clashes with Kane Parker as the other clone of Peter Parker, and he has, and then he adopted the Scarlet Spider moniker. He also was Spider-Man at a time when Peter Parker abandoned the title. He was Spider Carnage for a brief moment there. And then he died in a battle with the Green Goblin. However, he was resurrected once more as the new Jackal during the clone conspiracy in 2017.
This is a conspiracy.
This is a conspiracy.
Go on.
And he has identical powers to Peter Parker, but has, because of the way he utilized his powers, he was actually able to improve upon the web shooters. His web shooters are notably more clunky than Peter's are, but they do have different strengths to them. And he eventually becomes resistant to Venom and Carnage's symbiote possession after being symbiote or Spider Carnage, which that was a weird. He tried to get Carnage off of him with a near lethal dose of microwave radiation. It didn't end up very well.
Oh boy!
But fun fact: Ben Reilly, though he is a clone of Peter Parker, he takes his name from Uncle Ben and Aunt May's maiden name, which she was May Riley before she was May Parker. So that is this Spider-Man. Or Scarlet Spider, rather, has pieced himself together from numerous spider identities and people. But he is a extremely popular character. Very cool spider suit. Actually, one of my favorite Spider-Man costumes in general with the hoodie. So he takes number 2 on our list.
Yeah, he really did piece himself together. You want to hear about somebody who pieced themselves together? We're going to talk about number 1. Number 1 on our clone list. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Doomsday.
Hell yeah.
That's it. Bye, guys. No.
Thank you for joining us.
Doomsday was an experiment just like Superboy and Bizarro. And just like Bizarro, he kind of hates Superman. A whole lot. In fact, he hates all Kryptonians because Doomsday was born to die. I know that's confusing. We'll get there.
Sick guitar riff and explosions.
He was a genetic experiment created in such a way that every time he died, his remains would be cloned, and he would evolve so that he could never die the same way again. Each time his death was recorded into his genes, which made him stronger. And so he became the ultimate life form. But he was only allowed to evolve physically, not mentally. So pretty much everything resulted in him being the perfect evolutionary experiment until he killed his creator. But that's, again, a different story. He became so powerful that he was the first to kill Superman.
Congratulations. A dubious honor.
And it wasn't even through like weird mystical magics. He just literally beat the crap out of him until he died.
Oh, no.
Which was thought to be impossible. And the crazy part is that he defeated the entire Justice League before that. Like he was like, this is the appetizer, going for the main course right here with Superman. While his evolution is expedited through cloning, it has evolved him in such a way that he can do anything.
Yeah.
He's got claws that extend from him, kind of like another clone that we have on the list. He's got the ability to stop anything and do really anything, except calm down. He's just pure rage and a ball, and he loathes the Kryptonians for his endless torture. And in that way, he loathes all things that are living.
Move over, James Bond. I mean, like, you only die twice. No, Doomsday will die as many times as it takes to. I wonder if there's a point at which he becomes immune to everything. It's like
I think we're getting there.
Like, could he? Is he like? What if he died in his sleep one time? I know he was on the harsh wastes of like a primordial kind of Kryptonian environment.
Yeah.
But like, what if he died in his sleep and then they clone him the next time and they're like, all right, he can never die in his sleep again. He can never sleep again. Like
it's the little things that really, I'm sure, it's been a long time coming. We'll get to the point where actually all of the comics are just Doomsday. Like no one else will be alive because it's just Doomsday.
Yeah, Darkseid was, Doomsday is. Oh, wow. So it sounds like it's if you are a Kryptonian, specifically Superman, but there's room for others, or an X-Men, you might want to check where this is going to sound weird, check where you're leaving your DNA, because it seems to be stolen quite frequently for cloning purposes.
You really ought to be careful about that.
Yeah, okay, Honey Badger is like perfect. Mr. Sinister, we got our eye on him. The Stepford Cuckoos, I love them, and they're kind of dangerous. And Madeline Pryor went straight up evil.
I would say that most clones are like super powerful.
Yeah.
And super dangerous.
Yeah.
Even the good ones.
I wonder if they get like a little bit of like middle child syndrome. Like this is the OG, this is the older child, and you are second in command.
Well, you've cracked the code right there. Clones, middle children.
So, to recap our list, honorable mention goes to the clones of Star Wars. Number 10 is Mr. Sinister. Number 9 is Strife. Number 8 is Honey Badger. Number 7 is Black Noir. Number 6 is the Stepford Cuckoos. Number 5 is Bizarro. Number 4 is Madeline Pryor. Number 3 is Superboy. Number 2 is Ben Reilly, aka the Scarlet Spider. And number 1 is Doomsday. So, was this list just like the real thing, or should we tweak some DNA and try again? If we missed someone that you think should be on the list, be sure to check out our blog and send us your opinions at podcast@sideshow.com. And that was the top 10 clones in comics. Do you enjoy the Geek Culture Countdown? We are proud to bring you pop culture content completely ad-free, but that doesn't mean we don't need your support to help keep us going. Please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform and help spread the word about our podcast. We welcome fan feedback. Email us at podcasts@sideshow.com with your thoughts and suggestions for how we can make our shows even better. Plus, tune in for our other pop culture podcasts. See your favorite comic and film characters evolve across 2 generations in the bi-weekly Then and Now podcast. Hear exclusive interviews with celebrities and pop culture industry leaders as they let their geek side show in Look Who Showed Up. Then get all the latest pop culture news with our daily briefing, a 2-minute breakdown of all the biggest geek headlines perfect for your Alexa or Google News briefings. We wouldn't exist without your continued support. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to let your geek side show.